Hello there survivors, and welcome back to another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. Today we're going to build this Greek temple used as a dino pen or a breeding facility, because there's plenty of room on the inside on the first layer as well as on the second layer. And of course this temple is built using the Astraeos custom cosmetics, all the three variants, and even the statues that are in the same cosmetic. I have added some extra details using the Roman custom cosmetics, but those are definitely optional, so if you do not want to use them, so you can leave them out or just replace them, of course, by the Astraeos ones. We're also using a little bit of the textures from the Bob Tall Tales DLC, like the frontier skin for some of the ceilings and the beams, as well as the steampunk skin for the big dino gates. As said, this is designed to be a breeding facility, so there's plenty of space on the inside for all your tames, including some of the bigger ones like gigas and karchas. And it has a second layer for all of your flyers or just more of your breeding projects, easily accessible as well. And of course, it's adorned by many statues to make sure that your dinos feel like the great heroes they are. As always, if you enjoy seeing these build tutorials and you want to see more, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a member if you want to show even more support. If you want to know where I built this, I built on the islands north of the volcano island, but this temple exactly is located right over here on the map. And of course, we're starting out by placing down a foundation, and this one we want to make 19 wide. So we're just going to go out until we reach 19 in total. Just like this. And then we want to go out by 35 in total for this one. So this one is going to be quite long. But yeah, it's going to be a big breeding temple, of course. So we want plenty of space on the inside. And of course, we want to complete this square, so you want to make sure that you start filling in all the different sides. So we want to have this one as well. And then of course, if you've done everything correctly, you can kind of close off the shape by connecting this opposite side, and it should all meet up right back here. Now, before we start filling in the entire foundation, we want to come to the ends here and we want to add in the stairs. So what we want to do is here, we're going to add 3 extra foundations just behind this. And we'll take out these 3 in front so that we can add in our staircase from the foundation down into the ground. We want to do that right here just before the end. And we're actually going to do that on each of the different sides. So these are easy ways to, well, kind of get onto your foundation if it's a little bit higher or whatever. Because, you know, we want to make sure that it's raised up a little bit, because then it feels more like you're walking up to a temple, of course. So we're going to do it on all of these edges. Of course, kind of also depends on your landscape how effective this will be and on how high above the ground you've built. If you want to, you can either use a mod to stack foundations to make it higher, or of course raise your ceilings, but just be aware that will add a lot of extra material, so beware of your structure limit. But the entire build should be able to fit quite easily within the limit. So now that we've added these stairs, we want to start filling in this entire foundation. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and do that, and I'll see you once you've done that. Alright, so once we filled all this in, we should have this giant foundation of 19 by 35. We want to add a few more to get the right size. At this corner, we want to add a block of 4 right here. And we want to do the same thing here on the other corner. Now, that means that in between, we can once again add in the stairs to get up to this. And this will kind of be one of your possible main entrances to easily walk in your tames if needed. On the other side of the foundation, we're doing the same thing. So at the corner, we're adding these blocks of 4 The same thing over here. Of course, these are the easiest things to leave out if you run out of space. You can also have only an entrance on one side, of course. I'll leave that totally up to you. But yeah, we want to add in the stairs along the side. But this is the entire blueprint needed, the entire space needed for this temple build. It's quite a big build, of course, but it should hold a lot of your breeding projects. Alright, then it's time to get started with all the pillars for our temple. We want to start right here on the corner, and we want to go up by 6 in total. Then we can leave a gap of 1, and we can have another pillar. So we're snapping right from the middle of these foundations, and then we want to place another one right here and a fourth one right next to it. That's it for this side. Then we start from the other corner. We're going to add that pillar of 6 high, leave a gap of 1, and kind of repeat the process that we did, just so that we have 4 pillars on this side as well, which will be supporting, of course, the temple, but also keeping the entrance open for our tames to come to the inside of our base. Then we go to the side here, and then here next to this staircase, we want to have another pillar, same height, then another gap of 1, and we'll bring up these pillars all to the same height of 6. And this time we're going to go on until we have 6 of those pillars all the way up to 6 high. So 6 of them right here. Then, of course, from the other corner next to the stairs, we're going to do the same thing. So there's going to be a pillar of 6 high, then a gap of 1, and then another pillar of 6 high. And once again, we'll repeat this process until we've got 6 of these pillars going up from this corner too. And then this should be the final one. Then we have a gap here in the middle, which is 5. The middle 3 foundations we can actually get rid of. If you want an extra entrance in the side of your building, you can add one right to the side. You can decide whether you want to do that on both sides. Maybe you only want to do it on one side. Personally, I recommend only having this on one side, as the other side will probably use to place down the elevator to get up to the next level. Then, of course, we're going to keep repeating this process until we have all the pillars we need on every side. On this side of the temple, it's going to be the same thing. So from the corner, we're going to bring up 4 of these pillars to be 6 high in total. From the other corner, we're going to do the exact same thing. So each time from the middle of a foundation, we'll bring them up 6 high until we have 4 of them from each corner on this side of the building, which means that we leave the entrance open. And then, of course, for the other side here next to the stairs, it's going to be another pillar of 6 high, and then we want to add 6 of those in total from this staircase outward, just to kind of repeat that process. So just like this, that should be everything from that side. We can go to this one here and repeat it once more to bring up these final pillars next to our big temple. So we'll bring all of these up once more until we reach the same section. So all of these pillars will be standing. And as I said, we have a staircase on that side. You could add one here, but you need an elevator somewhere to get up to the next level, unless you don't want an elevator. But in the case that we do, we want to add 2 more of these pillars right here to kind of just keep this pattern going, because then it's just going to be a closed wall. There's not going to be an entrance there. And with those pillars, we've got all of the outer pillars for our temple design in place. Then here at the side, we want to take out all large cellar doors. We want to change it to not the hangar, but the barn door. And then one after the first layer of foundations, we want to place in this nice door, which is going to be a side entrance. And we can actually add pillars here, and we want to also make these 6 high. So on the corners of this large cellar door, we want to add the pillars all the way up to the top. So that's going to be like the side entrance, which is slightly smaller, but still quite useful to have, of course. And then for the final pillars that we'll need here for supports is from this corner right here next to this side staircase. We want to place a pillar right there on the corner of these foundations and also bring it up. So it should be in line with that gate we've just made. And that's a pillar that we want to add for all the corners. So once again, from this pillar here, you go in by one foundation, and on the corner of the foundation, we add in that pillar just like that. We're doing the same thing right over here on this side, of course, and the same thing right over here. And these are going to be the corners of our building. And to keep the symmetry going, from where we have the gate on the other side, we want to go one foundation in, so we have the pathway still, and we want to also mirror the pillar that we've placed next to the gateway. So we're going to add in these two pillars just like that. They should line up perfectly with that gate. So it's a gap of 3 here, and then these foundations that go up 6 high. And that should get us the basic shape of not only the outside pillars, but also the pillars for the corner of the main temple build. Okay, so now it's finally time to start building this temple itself. So from the corner pillar, we want to add 5 walls here at the bottom. Then the one here at the side, we can bring all the way up. And then we can also extend this by 5 and bring it back all the way down. And then the one in the middle, we can also completely bring up to the top. Then here on the other side, we want to do the same thing. So we add 5 of these walls in. Then we'll bring this one up all the way alongside the pillar, bring it across until it's 5, and bring it back down, adding in the middle row too. And then these are the final pillars that we'll need for the gateway. So we'll add that right here to the end of the wall. Now, a little word of advice for the pillars that we use. The orientations of your pillars can sometimes change depending on how you build them with the Astraeos skin. So the easiest way I've found is snapping it to a wall, and then you know that the pillar, especially the top one, will be lined up the right way. So if you have any problems with your pillars, you might want to check out what they look like with the skin, and in the worst case, temporarily snap a wall to it and then place a pillar next to it, just to get the right snap point. For these ones in the front, the easiest way to do that is place one pillar down and kind of start with a line of walls and then add in the pillars in the right spots. That's the easiest way to fix the orientation that I found. You used to be able to like rotate the skins, but that doesn't seem to be an option right now anymore. So that makes this a little bit more difficult. So yeah, if you want to make sure that these pillars all line up, that is a good thing to keep in mind. Now we want to take our double doorways and start filling in these gaps in the middle. So all the way up from the bottom up to the top. Same thing over here. And now there's going to be a slight difference between official and non-official. Well, this step is going to be the same thing, just adding in the doors right there in the middle of these. These are going to be your big windows using the 3rd variant skin of the Astraeos custom cosmetic pack. Now, if you're unofficial, I believe some people told me you can't even have a beam at the bottom. But if you can, try at least that and have it at the top as well if you're on official settings. Otherwise, I guess this is just your window. We want to definitely have the beam at the bottom. At the top, however, we want to add in these slope walls. So this is only possible if you have overlapping settings on, but that will get a nicer touch for the top of this window. So we want to do that for both sides. Then here we want to take out our behemoth cellar door, not go for the hangar door, but for the barn door. And of course, we want to make sure that we put it right there in the middle. Then we can take out our full walls again and bring them across the top layer just like this. So this is going to be the entrance to the temple. And of course, because of this big behemoth barn door, it means that even some of the most tall creatures like gigas and karchas can still easily get inside. Now, of course, we're going to repeat this process on the other side. So we start by 5 walls right here and then bringing these all the way up and across like so, connecting these walls down to the bottom and adding in the middle layer. And then of course we turn here to the other side where we do the same thing. So these 5 we want to have, bring up this wall, bring it across again until it's also 5, bring it down, add in the middle one. Then we can add in our double doorways on both of these, and of course here on this side the same thing, just like that. And we add in the double doors here, double doors there, and then all the double doors for your windows, the beams at the bottom of the window, just like that. And of course or slope walls to create a little bit of interest, as long as you do have the overlapping settings, of course. There we go, that looks quite nice. Then we'll take out our pillar again and add them right here next to these walls to make that look a little bit nicer. Take out our behemoth cellar door once again and snap it right there in the middle and have a full layer of walls going across the top. So that should give us the entrances to both sides of this build. Now, first of all, we're going to start here with this section above the gate at the side of the building. We just want to fill in these walls like so. And for the other side, especially if we want to have the elevators on the inside, it means we can just fill in the middle of these 2 pillars with walls all the way from the bottom to the top. Then it's time to start our wall on this side. So first of all, the first layer, we kind of just want to bring it across from the corner to the gate, or to the pillars at least. And then we can bring 2 layers all the way up until it's 6 high. And then here on the corner, we also want to do 2 layers of walls, bringing them all the way up. Then each time we're going to leave a gap of 1, and of course connect them to the other sides, and we'll do that here as well. So kind of in front of these pillars we'll have walls, so we'll have a few walls just like this. And of course we'll continue the wall here at the bottom on the other side of the gate as well. So we'll bring it all the way across, bring these 2 layers all the way up until the same height as the pillar. The same thing right here next to the gate, bring it all the way up, and then each time a gap of 1 and filling in these remaining walls just like this. And there we go. Of course, on the other side, we basically want to do the same thing. So we'll fill in the last layer of this wall just like this. Then these end 2 we want to bring up all the way to the same height as the pillar. Same thing here on this corner, of course, bringing them all the way up until the right height, and then starting to leave these gaps of 1 to create our big windows. And we'll bring them all the way across until we meet in the middle. Then this side, of course, well, you guess it, it's going to be the same thing. So we'll bring this across as well, the walls all the way, bringing up these 2 walls all the way to the same height as the pillar. Same thing over here, bringing them all the way up until the same height, and then we can start making those gaps every other one for the nice and tall windows. And we'll fill in this last one just like this. Then we want to add in the double door frames everywhere where we still have the gaps. So these are gonna be for windows, of course, so we want to do that for each and every one of these sections. So we just bring all of these in. Same thing here on this side, all of them, adding in these double door frames just like that. Then the last few here on this side, same thing. We'll just keep going all the way up and down until we've placed all of them. And then of course we want to make sure that we add in our doors to each and every one of these windows. It's easier, I feel like, to do this in batches so that you kind of know which structures you should carry instead of doing, you know, changing it back and forth all the time. This is, in my opinion, a little easier, although in survival it will be a little bit more tricky to get to the upper parts depending on how far along in your progression you are. But yeah, we just want to add in all of these windows. And then at the bottom here, of course, if you can, we're going to add in the beam. If you can't, I guess you'll have to leave it out. But yeah, it's just going to be a nice little detail. And all these beams at the bottom of the windows, we're going to change into the Frontier skin when we can. And now we're going to add these slope walls to the top of the windows as a final little detail to make it look a little bit nicer. So once again, going around, adding in these last final details to make these windows even nicer all the way. And then of course the other side, the exact same thing. We want to add in all of these sloped walls to create these curves, if we can, of course, having all overlapping settings. So yeah, we want to just last few as well, just following each of these windows just like that. And there we go. We should have all the windows in the same way, which basically means we've got the first layer of our temple complete. And you can see the amount of space for breeding you have on the inside. And in case you want a little bit more detail on the inside, you can add in some pillars on the inside as well. Just keep in mind that this does take away from your space and might make it a little bit harder to use for your bigger creatures. But if you don't mind, we want to start a pillar right here, bring it up by 6, have a gap of 1, and then bring up the next pillar. We'll continue this a little bit further, just like this. One more over here. And then this is going to be the final one. Then on this side, of course, we will continue bringing this pillar up. And then this one right here, getting close to this side entrance. There we go. So that's basically the pillars you could add to make some different sections and make it look all a little bit more supported here on the inside too. But once again, this of course does take away from your breeding space. Some might like it to divide it into different sections, maybe specified for certain creatures that you're working on. But others might be more happy by keeping the space completely open so that they have all the room for your breeding projects instead of giving it away to some nice fancy pillars. So yeah, we want to do this for now. I'm going to add them in for every section just to kind of get a little bit of that detail going. But once again, completely your choice whether or not to add this in. You definitely do not need it, of course, as part of the design. But yeah, it is just an optional addition to add a little bit more detail and grandeur to the inside, I suppose. So we'll just bring up all of these pillars. And then this one right over here. Then only one side is left. Right on the other side, we want to fill in these pillars to create the last little breeding enclosure, I guess. And we'll just bring up all of these pillars. The last one right over here. So the good thing is you still have plenty of space. Even with big creatures, you can make it work. But it will be, yeah, very much based on your personal preference, what you like or not. So there we go. That is the extra amount of detail and the extra amount of pillars that you might want to add to make the inside look a little bit nicer. Then to add in the elevator, I choose wood just because it fits with the Greek vibe a little bit more. But of course, a more practical way would probably just using the metal one, but I'll leave that up to you. We want to add in all the structure pieces that we need. And then of course, we can add in the platform here as well, which should bring you up and down. Then it's time to start on the second layer of the temple. First of all, we're going to start bringing out our ceilings out by 2 here on the side and all the way until they hang over the pillars here at the front. And then we kind of just want to start filling in this whole section here. So first of all, we're going to do the front here, going from one side all the way until the other corner, the last pillar here. And we can start filling in this entire section with ceilings, which will give us a lot of extra space to work with. And of course, especially with the nice little details in the front, with all the statues and stuff that we have available to us. There we go. And then here on this side, we can kind of just follow along with these two layers all the way on the outside of the walls, just slowly adding in these ceilings, which once again is going to create a nice little overhang on this side. But more importantly, is going to be the start of our nice big roof for this temple. And there we want to keep it going all the way, of course, until we reach this corner of the pillar. And then we'll take it all the way again until we reach the other side. And this is kind of just following the pillars that we've already placed and filling in all of these ceilings where we need them. So here we'll continue this way. We'll bring it all the way back to the start. Again, this layer of two ceilings on the outside of the walls should line up perfectly with everything that we've placed so far, and will take us all the way back to the start over here. So just keep filling them in all the way. Then the only part left to do, of course, is this little layer here. And there we go. We have another nice layer here of ceilings to help with the entrance. All the way, of course, until we meet the end. So we should have filled all of these ceiling pieces around the outside of the build in so that we can get started with our roof design. For the next step, we take out our quarter walls and we start adding a layer here on the end of the ceilings all the way from one side until the other. It's a little bit of a tedious job, but we need those extra little details. So from one side to the other, and then also here on the side, we want to all raise it up by this layer of the quarter ceiling. So we just want to go along the entire side, start adding in these quarter walls all the way across, just like so. And it's quite a few of them that we'll need, but yeah, just slowly and surely we'll get there. So just all the way until we reach the end. There we go. And then we'll go around the corner and of course repeat the process on this side too. So first of all, going all the way across just like this with our quarter walls all the way back up to the corner, and then there's only one side left to completely go from this side back to where we started, and that should give us a nice detailed little border around the build pretty much, which will look quite nice. So we just continue all our way and back to where we started. So yeah, definitely not too tricky, but it's gonna add a layer, nice little layer and detail to the whole build. So we end up back here at the start. Then we take out our quarter ceilings. We snap two right here in this corner. We do two right here in this corner. And of course on the other side, we'll do the same thing, two right here and two right there. Then we want to take out our full ceilings, connect it up to these ones in the corner, and just go all the way from one side to the other. Just all the way across like this. There we go. And of course, here on the other side, we want to make sure that we do the exact same thing, adding in this layer of the ceilings. This is where we'll place our statues on top. There we go. And then of course we'll take out another layer of these half walls and go from one side to the other, making sure that we add in this layer of quarter walls to hide it all away. So from one side to the other, there we go. And then we reach back to this side. Of course, here on the other side, we want to do the exact same thing. So we're just going to go all the way across the other one and make sure that it's all connected back up to each other. So just want to make sure that we don't misplace anything, but just bring it all the way back to the other side of the building. just so that it is nicely closed off. Perfect. All right, it's time to get started on the shape of the roof, and we start right here on the full ceiling with 2/4 walls. Same thing right here on this side, and then we connect it with a layer of full walls from one side all the way across to the other. So just following along just like this. There we go. Then, of course, we leave these end two open. Then we can have another layer of walls all the way until the other side, until we leave the last two open again. Same thing, last two open, bring it back across all the way. Last two open, bring it back across, and then nothing above this layer. Now we can take out our quarters, add in there, and here. And of course, we want to make sure to add them in the middle for right here. And then on this side, we just want to follow the shape just like that. So now it should have all the equal steps going up. So we can add in our slope walls just like this and make a nice, tall, big mountain until we reach the top. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we fill in all of these on this side as well with the sloped walls. There we go. Just like that. And there we have it. The nice big front of the temple. And of course, on the other side, we're starting with the exact same project. So right over here, we want to add in these two. Same thing here on the other side. That means that we get into a full layer of walls going across, just like this until it meets back up. Then we leave the last two open and we start bringing across these walls until the other side. Last two open, and the same thing here for the next layer. There we go. Last two open, and there we have it. We take out our quarter walls and we start adding them right here to create some kind of steps. Here as well, over here, and the final one right there. Then we bring out the slope walls again and we can start adding them in just like this, all the way from the bottom to the top, turning it around. And making sure that we fill in this side just as well. There we go. All the way back down into the foundations or the ceilings. And before we start adding in the roof, I always prefer to start doing the ceilings first. Now that we're still working with the natural light, it's always a little bit nicer and easier to do. So yeah, we kind of want to just fill in the entire middle of the build with these ceilings, just going all the way across, filling all of this in. Of course, one thing we do need to keep in mind, we have a big elevator here, so we want to make sure that we go around that. So it's a 5x5 gap that we should leave, and we should be able to just bring our ceilings around like this. Now, when I tested it, I could still do these pillars around it and change them into the frontier skins, which I always really prefer for having these beams around it, especially since I'm going to do most of the attic, except for the layers here on the outside that are visible on the outside. This is going to be frontier wood. This is going to be the Astraeos skins. But yeah, this is the only gap that you need to keep. And for the rest of it, we can start filling it all in with our ceilings. Not really a difficult job. It's just, you know, a little bit time consuming. So we'll start filling it all in, and I'll see you once you've filled in your entire attic. So there we go. Then we have a very big attic here for more breeding. This is what I would use for like all your flyers and stuff like that. Although you can also, of course, bring other tames up. It's just extra room basically for all your breeding projects. We then want to take out our quarter ceilings, and here from this corner, we're going to go all the way across the side of these walls that we've created for this layer, to kind of create the last little overhang that we'll need before placing in the roof. So we're just gonna follow the outside, if I don't misplace too much, and add in all these quarter ceilings from one side until the other. Yeah, because then this is actually the way how we make sure that the roof is back to being an even number instead of being uneven. Which is always important, and always it looks a little bit nicer as well, having an extra overhang, even on a build like this that kind of already does. And then of course here on the other side we want to do the exact same thing. So once again we're gonna bring these from one side, if I stop misplacing them, all the way back to the other side, and just follow the ledge all the way across from one end to the other. Just going on like that. But this should be quite easy to build now that we've whole new layer. It's a lot easier to reach again, so shouldn't be too much of a problem. And we just want to continue this all the way from one side back to the other. Just like that. There we go. All there we are. So yeah, another nice little lip of quarter ceilings. Now that we've done that, it's finally time to do the roof. Now there's two ways to do this roof. It kind of depends once again on official settings or not. Of course, we want to take out our ramps. On official, you'll have one ramp here, and you can have the other ramp on the other side, just like this, because of course we can't overlap. But if you do have the overlapping settings, you want to place the ramp right here and then place another one right there, so that the overhang goes even further. On official settings, I guess if you really want the overhang to go further than the statues, you can add another full one, but I personally like this more. But of course that won't be possible on official settings, unfortunately. And then we want to start bringing this layer all the way up alongside these walls that we have. And of course now it looks still a little bit weird, but once we start adding the Astraeos skins to the slope walls, they will fit and align with the ramps perfectly. So we'll bring it all the way here until we reach the middle, and then of course we can start bringing them back down the other side of the building, and this kind of gives us a start to the shape of our roof, and finally visualize what the temple will look like. There we go. And then of course it's just time to start bringing this across until we reach the other side, and yeah, make sure it sticks out the same amount there. So this is once again quite a long and tedious process, because we do have a big build, and that also means we do have quite a big roof. So yeah, for now we just want to kind of make sure that we follow this all the way through. I'll do the one layer with you, and then you can kind of just follow this along and do this for yourself. It's not really that hard to do. It just takes a little while, especially survival, if you might have to go back and forth for resources as well. But yeah, we want to just make sure that we bring this all the way over here. This overlap should be the exact same as we already did. So if you started with official, you should also work this out perfectly, and then just recreate what we did on the other side right over here. And then of course we can keep this going, so we can start building this next layer here and bring it across to the other side. That's one side of the roof, and then of course the other side, it's pretty much the same thing. You want to start filling in that all the way through as well. Okay, so now we have some roofs in place. We have a big roof. We want to add in some details. First off, we're going to take out our ceilings here and we're going to add a platform right here. Now, you probably could do it like this if you have overlapping, and if you don't have overlapping, it should line up with the wall without overlapping into it because you already changed the roof placement. We're going to do the same thing here over on this side of the roof. We'll have one right over here, the same one right over there, and on the other side of the roof too. So right here and right over there. And then actually above the entrance here on the side, we want to do it as well. We want to do it right here. So in line with the pillar, go up, and then one from the edge, and then the same thing right over here too. So we have two of those going on. Then first of all, we want to add in our slope walls just like this. There we go, and there we are. Then at the end we can have our nice quarter walls here too. That's how we create these little platforms that will have some statues on as details. Same thing over here. We'll get these slope walls in, and then our little quarter walls. Same thing over here. So yeah, basically we're repeating this process a few times to get it right. And then here we're going to do the same thing. So one over here, one over there. Same thing here and there. And we'll have a layer of these quarter walls. Just like that. And of course, we'll continue this trend over on the other side too. So we'll just start filling these in. Of course, as soon as we start skinning them, everything is going to align very nicely. So don't worry about that. We'll do these. We'll do those. Because of course, the slope walls, we want to go into the third variant, so they fit the slope of the ramps. But for now, we're just going to place them in. Same thing here, same thing there, and same thing over here. And then we can have a little layer of these quarter walls. And if you don't know, you need a medium deco box to get the statues. Make sure to point the arrow in the way that you want the statue to look. And basically here on the middle of these platforms is where I would place them. You can do this for all of these ones. So above the side entrance, the ones on the corner here too. So these ones as well. And if you do have the Roman custom cosmetic, it is a premium one. You can also use some of those statues, and they have really cool Zeus statues, and they go on the large deco box, as you can see in the distance. And those I would personally have right over here. But once again, that is a premium custom cosmetic. So if you don't want to buy it, I understand. And you can just pick and choose which one of the normal statues from Astraeos custom cosmetics you like the most. And there's also like 4 variations in there, so plenty to play around with. Yeah, but basically want to have the boxes on each of these little platforms, as they will add a nice detail to our roof. Then we'll take out the beams. We're going to get a beam across the top. We're going to have one over here, and then one continue over on this side from one end to the other. So yeah, we'll just bring it in. And this beam you want to change to the frontier skin if you have that available, because that looks quite nice and it's a nice contrast with the rest of the build. And with those deco boxes, you can also decorate over here. So basically how to get these statues in is placing them, then applying the statue skin, and of course you can change the size so it better fills the whole area. And you can have a few of them in different orientations until you get a section that looks like this, which really spices up these builds in a good way, in my opinion. So that's what you want to do. And I mean, even though it doesn't look like it, that is how we built this entire structure. So this is very bare bones, of course. We're still missing all the custom textures with the custom cosmetic skins, but it should be relatively easy. Now keep in mind that especially for these ceilings, I personally did all of them inside of the walls. So inside of these walls are going to be frontier ceilings, and just the outside two over here, as well as sort of the frontmost layers over there, are going to be the Astraeos ones. Now, since skinning the whole build takes about as long as building the whole thing, I'm just going to show you what I did over here. So there's a few different things that you need to keep in mind. For these pillars, we just want to make them look logically. So the first variant at the bottom, second in all the middle ones, and the third one at the top. For these foundations, this is the second variant, just to get that nice little detailed look all the way around. This is also the second variant, and then everything inside can just be the first or the second. You don't really see anyway. And then you can go all the way around. For the doors, or actually the barn doors, I've used the steampunk skin, the frontier beams at the bottom of the window, as well as on top of the roof. The roof, of course, the third variant at the edge, the second one for all the other ones that we have in there. And then, of course, the main walls. Now, the main walls here on the side, quite easy. Third variant at the top, second variant, first variant, second variant, but changing them here in the options, and then the first variant and changing them in the options at the bottom. So it goes first, second, second, third. That is how you do it. We have these textures over here on these ceilings, which is also the second variant. We have the second variant here, as well as the first variant for these little quarter ceilings. So basically the whole design of the walls is the same everywhere, except of course here it's different. We have the third variant on the full walls at the bottom, second variant everywhere else, and the first variant for these little quarter walls. Of course, the third variant for the slope walls to change them into the right space. That's basically what you do. You can see, of course, these are all skinned in Astraeos. These are frontier skin to get that nice wooden look. So again, the outer two are the Astraeos skins, as well as the ones, the four layers in the front and the back. Basically, everything that is visible from the outside is Astraeos. Everything that is visible from the inside is the frontier. And that is kind of how you get this build completed. So we'll do a quick little tour of the entire build. As you can see, we have a nice temple here. As I said, I used some of the Roman custom cosmetics for these statues. That is a premium custom cosmetic, but it does add a cool few statues, as well as some really nice textures, as well as some other decorations, like for example the braziers and many more. But yeah, they just look quite nice. Then we have the inside over here. We have all the different sections, as you can see, with some of the Western deco hay bales, some regular things that you might expect in a breeding pen. As I said, the pillars will take away some of your space, but you can see even some of the bigger and taller creatures can still easily fit inside. So you can kind of use them as dividers if you want to, or of course leave out the pillars if you prefer to pick and choose what you put over where. But yeah, we have hatching areas, of course, things you would expect from a big breeding base, and that's basically what this is dedicated to. And then of course we have the elevator that we can take up, and then we have our flyers over here, dragons, wyverns fit inside, Ryanetha with a cool little skin on it. But yeah, you have a decent amount of space here, as you can see, to work with. So yeah, definitely you can get a lot of breeding done in a base like this, I think. And it also still looks pretty cool, and of course very iconic, especially for Astraeos to use a build like this. Kind of blends in with some of the pre-existing structures already available on the map. But yeah, there we go. That is how to build this Greek Dino Pen in ARK Survival Ascended using the Astraeos structures. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you around in the next video or stream. For now, goodbye.